Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. I hope you're having a great weekend. Some of us had Friday off school, and then we get Monday off as well, so makes for a good weekend when there's 2 days you get to sleep in extra. The joys of being an adult. I look forward to the sleeping in part, although I've learned some of my students do too. Not all of them, but anyways, so we're picking up in 2 Samuel chapter 9 as we have been again studying the life of David as king. Last week we talked about his victories and how he was victorious and God was with him wherever he went. And we can be encouraged by that God goes with us wherever we go. And then we talked about ways that you can give back to God, just like David gave back the gold and the silver. And we talked about how you can give money at church. We talked about how you can give of your time or your service. You can help other people or do things. How'd you do this last week, boys and girls? How'd you spend your time? Did you spend time in God's word? Did you spend time holding the door open? Did you spend time praying? Did you spend time helping someone out? Maybe you saw someone with a heavy package and you helped them carry it. How did you help out this week? I hope you did, boys and girls. Well, we're getting into chapter 9, and we're going to jump back. Actually, we get to see something we mentioned in chapter 4, which I kind of thought was ironic because I was studying that it was mentioned in one verse. Chapter 4, verse 4. Well, it's going to come back up in chapter 9 where we are this week, boys and girls. Let's look at verse 1 and kind of get our bearings, our setting for where we're at. Yeah, our bearings. That's right, Peter. My favorite bear. And David said, "Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?" If you remember, David and Jonathan were best friends, and David had promised Jonathan to take care of his family. They were such good and devoted friends, and Saul had died in battle, and so did Jonathan. And this is where you got to remember, scratch your head way back. Was there somebody left of Jonathan's family? Was there someone? Yeah, there was. Let's look back at chapter 4, verse 4, because it mentioned it briefly. It says, "And Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son that was lame of his feet. He was 5 years old when the tidings came of Saul and Jonathan out of Jezreel. And his nurse took him up and fled. And it came to pass, as she made haste to flee, that he fell and became lame. And his name was Mephibosheth." That was inserted back in chapter 4 for us. Now we're in chapter 9, and David's saying, wait, is there anyone left of Jonathan's family? I want to show kindness to Jonathan. He was my best friend. I want to take care of his family. And so he asks, well, in verse 3, "And the king said, Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of God unto him? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet." So the nurse had actually gone to hide Mephibosheth, but Ziba knew where he was, and he told David, well, there's one left, but he's lame in his feet. And we just went back to chapter 4 and read about how the nurse had been running with him to try to flee, to try to escape, to try to protect him. And Mephibosheth, when he was 5, fell and became lame as a result of that. Verse 5, "Then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of Ameliel, from Ledaboar." Goes and gets him. Says, come to my come to my palace. Boys and girls, if you're Jonathan's son Mephibosheth, and you know your dad's been killed in battle, and you know your grandpa had chased King David and wanted King David killed, how do you think you'd been feeling? And since you were a young kid, you've been told you're hiding from the king. Do you think you'd be scared? You think you'd be nervous? I think I would be. I get nervous still walking into the principal's office, and I've been teaching for 15 years. There's some people you just get nervous when you go see because of their position. Not necessarily because the principal's scary, but because of the position and the authority. Well, Mephibosheth is nervous, okay, and we see verse 6. "Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence. And David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, behold thy servant. He comes in and he shows respect to David. Okay, he comes in, he wants to show respect and reverence. That's why he fell on his face, boys and girls. We're not being mean. He didn't trip and fall because he was lame. He did that out of respect for David. Listen to David's, okay, so he says his name. Now listen to the first words he says. Verse 7, and David said unto him, fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. So Mephibosheth comes in, and David's first words to him are, fear not. Don't be afraid. Okay, sometimes I'll need to ask my kids, a student a question. I'll pull them in the hall and be like, don't be worried. You're not in trouble. I just have to ask you a question. Because usually if they're pulled out alone, they think they're in trouble. But that's David's response to him. He's like, fear not. Okay, don't be afraid. Then he says, I'm going to show you kindness for Jonathan's sake. Because your dad and I were best friends, I'm going to show you kindness. He tells him he'd restore the land that was Saul's. He was going to give him what their family had owned. And then that Mephibosheth would eat at David's table. So David tells him these things. Let's see what Mephibosheth's response back was. Verse 8, and he bowed himself and said, what is thy servant, that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am? He's basically saying, I'm worthless, I'm lowly, I can't do much. Why are you looking so favorably on me? Mephibosheth has a humble response. Okay, he's not like jumping up and down like, hey, the king likes me, I'm his favorite. No, he's humble. He's like, wait, whoa, who am I? Who am I to be so special? Verse 9, then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Saul and to all his house. So he tells Ziba, and then he actually tells Ziba that he and his family and his servants are to help farm the land, help take care of the land, help do things for Mephibosheth. Because Mephibosheth is lame, he gives him servants and people to take care of all of Saul's land that he has given to him. Ziba agrees. Ziba says he will do that. Verse 11 tells us that. I want to point out something that's repeated over and over. It comes up 3 times in just this one chapter. In chapter 9, verse 7, okay, at the end it said, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually. In verse 10, it says, I'll read the whole verse, thou therefore and thy sons, she's talking to Ziba, and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread alway at my table. And then it says, and now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. So he had plenty to take care of the land. Then verse 11 at the end, it says, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. Boys and girls, it's repeated there for us 3 times. Okay, it kind of gets you to think as you read through a chapter and you see a phrase come up over and over. Do you think David was serious about having Mephibosheth eat with him? He sure was. Boys and girls, if you think about the table, bringing someone in to eat with you always, okay, you eat every single day. Okay, it was something where he wanted Mephibosheth with him all the time. He wanted Mephibosheth to know that he was a part of his family. Sometimes we have friends and guests over and they include us in our meal and at their table, boys and girls. That's the idea of being part of the family. He wanted Mephibosheth to feel included. He wanted Mephibosheth to know that his needs were going to be taken care of. He was going to be fed, but also that he was going to be included in David's family. He wasn't going to be an outcast because of what Saul had done or because he was Jonathan's son. David was going to show him kindness, and David does. Mephibosheth dwells in Jerusalem, and he does continually eat at David's table. It says that in verse 13. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table and was lame on both his feet. David takes care of Mephibosheth. He keeps the promise that he had made to Jonathan. David loved his friend Jonathan, and he showed that love to Jonathan's son. His love didn't stop just because Jonathan had died. He wanted to show a love for him, and he did. David treated Mephibosheth right because of his relationship with Jonathan, not necessarily Saul. How do you treat people, boys and girls? How do you treat people? Think about it a second. Are you kind to people? Or are you one of those people who's always trying to get it better for yourself? And it doesn't matter who you step on. Today they're your friend because they have a they have a Reese's cup. I was going to say peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I'm not so sure you'd want that. But they have a Reese's cup. So today Johnny's your friend. But tomorrow Freddie has the Twix bar, so he's your friend. And the next day, somebody else has the Starburst, so they're your friend. Is that the kind of person you are? Is that how you treat people? Just because they do nice things for you, that then you're their friend? Or are you a true friend, boys and girls? It's important that you be a true friend. You will learn and you will grow in your friendships, that's for sure, because none of us are perfect. A friendship is made up of two sinners, and there will be bumps along the road. But boys and girls, play the part, not just act. But you will be a true friend in how you treat people. You will show kindness to people. Boys and girls, could Mephibosheth do anything for David? No. Okay? And I don't mean this in a mean way, but he's lame. He's not getting, by the way, lame not meaning like dumb, retarded, boring. Okay, not that idea of lame, but the idea of he can't walk. Okay, so Mephibosheth's not gonna like stand up and start cleaning David's house. After they finish the meal, he's not gonna be the one to get up and do the dishes. Mephibosheth isn't going to be able to do things for David because of his physical condition, and yet David's going to show him love. Boys and girls, do you show love to the people around you who maybe don't look like you, who maybe have a disability? Yeah, Peter doesn't look like me, but good news, boys and girls, we get along most of the time. Anyways, how do you treat the people, boys and girls, who don't look like you, who have a disability? Maybe they aren't as smart as you are. Do you make them feel dumb because they can't understand the math problem? Or do you come alongside and help them out? How do you make people feel? Boys and girls, our comments can often tear people down. Boys and girls, it's very important that you think about how you treat people. And it's not just about what they can give you, but it's what you can do for other people. Don't give expecting something in return. Some people can give more financially. Some people can give more time. Some people will be as loyal as they can be. Not everybody can give in every way. But you ought to treat everybody in a nice way, in a kind way, regardless of who they are or how they treat you. Boys and girls, as you go throughout this week, I hope you'll look for ways to be kind, to treat other people fairly, to not have relationships that would hinder your relationship with God, but that you'll treat all people well.